Welcome back. Another edition Monday live. My name's Jason Priester, allclemsontigers.com. Right back here with you tonight as we do every Monday, 7 p.m. Spring football's over, basketball's over, baseball's still rolling right along. We're kind of getting into what I like to call the slow news cycle when it comes to college athletics, unless you're just a big baseball junkie, kind of like I am. Um, we can take this thing wherever you want to take it. We can keep on talking about what we saw in the spring game. We can talk Clemson baseball, who is kind of facing some real adversity for the first time this season. You got some portal or kind of surprising portal departure for basketball with RJ Godfrey, and the portal window opens for the football. The spring window opens. You know, it would be a minor shock if Clemson doesn't get hit in somehow, some way. No, I've not heard any names or anything like that. It's just kind of the world we live in now. It's kind of the nature of doing business. But it's open for 15 days. We'll see how things play out. But I've not I've not heard any names or anything like that. Let me get that out the way first and foremost. Um, but there has been some chatter that there might be a guy or two leaving. You just don't ever know with these things. There was a couple of guys, over the off season after the 2022 season that I would have swore were going to leave, and they didn't. And you don't ever know how things are going to work out. 2 weeks for them to decide to stay or go. So we'll see what happens. Baseball loses their first weekend series in more than a year. You got to go all the way back to the last weekend in March of last season when Wake Forest swept Clemson to find a series that Clemson lost. I think it was the last 2 days of March and the first day of April. And I remember very distinctly Eric Backett saying after that Sunday game when they lost the third one and Wake finished off the sweep that he knew that team was going to turn the corner and, start playing better baseball. And sure enough, they went on a tear that resulted in them being a national seed. And, I kind of got the same vibe from him this weekend, especially after the sloppiness we saw in game one with I think it was 6 unearned runs, and then more sloppiness in game two with 4 errors, if I'm remembering right. I was kind of wondering if we might get the perturbed Eric Backett we got after the drubbing they took from Kennesaw State earlier this season. But we didn't, man. He's he's so even keeled. He's still very confident. Um, he's very confident. This is just a hiccup, speed bump in the road. I remember him saying Friday night when after they had lost their second straight day, he wanted them to feel it. He wanted them to feel every emotion, and then they ended up losing another one. Continued to play sloppy into Saturday, but yesterday was more of what we've become accustomed to with this team. They finally kind of broke out of their funk at the plate in that seventh inning. They had gone 19 innings without scoring a run exactly, but they finally kind of broke out of that funk in the seventh inning, and they played much better defense yesterday. I think the loss of Andrew Chufo, who I'm not expecting to return this year, has kind of messed with some of the chemistry and that the infield had been built over the past few weeks. Yeah, I know Chufo. I think Chufo's got what is it, 5, 6, 7 errors on the season. I can't remember, but I remember he's not made. I take that back. I think he's got 5, but he's not made one since the Kennesaw State series. He's really settled in. there at shortstop and kind of been the anchor of that middle infield. Jared Purifies played much better defensively of late. Not so much Saturday, but he had been really good for the most part of late. Um, but losing Chufo also means you lose Hinderleiter at first base, who gave you so much more athleticism over there than Obertop does, or hey, we saw him try Tristan McClatty there yesterday, and I didn't nothing he did stood out to me, so that's a good thing. I didn't spend a whole lot of time focusing on him, but um, at least he gives you some of the same athleticism that Hinderleiter does. So I do think it has had an impact on the chemistry a little bit. And maybe it takes a little while for them to all get used to playing together in those positions, and we'll see. They play Charlotte tomorrow at home, and then welcome Pitt to town, who is terrible. They're terrible. Should be a good time to play a get right series. You get Tristan Smith back. I would, back has made it all but said he was going to start on Friday this weekend. He definitely said he's going to be back. But once you get Tristan Smith back in that rotation with Aiden Canuck, that might be one of the better 1-2 punches in the country. Canuck has just been lights out, back-to-back ACC Player of the Week. Since they began ACC play, his WHIP is like 0.7 something. His numbers are just eye-popping. 8 shutout innings yesterday. You've got Austin Gordon kind of settled into that closer's role after he, had a slow start to the season. If you could get Rob Hughes right, there's a lot of things to like out there in that bullpen. I think Garris has looked really good lately outside of the one mistake he made the other night. Left the ball up high and got deposited into the stands on an 0-2 count. Can't do that. But his velocity's back. Pitches have some movement on and stuff. He looks much better now than he did a month ago. And can't say enough about Ethan Darden, man. That guy he's a bulldog, man. He's a bulldog. Just he's the epitome of consistency. Package also said yesterday he's gonna stay in the rotation once Smith comes back, so that'll put Matt Marshall back into pen, who I like him out there better than as a starter anyway. So that would give you Darden or let's say Smith, Darden, and then Canuck on Sunday. But I mean, Darden gives you 7 innings up there in South Bend. He deserves so much better than what he got Saturday. 9. He pitched a complete game, man. Gave up 1 earned run, and took the loss. That something just don't sound right about that. But I think only one time this season that as he started, or maybe twice that he started and not going at least 5 for you. I can't remember, but in his last 4, he's going 7, 5, 5, and 7. And they thought, outside of the Florida State, he gave up 4 earned runs, and I'm looking at the wrong numbers. Florida State, he went 6 1/3, gave up 4 earned runs. Miami's the one he didn't go 5. He only lasted 3, but he only gave up 2 earned runs. Then he goes 7 at Notre Dame. No earned runs. 1 unearned run. And then North Carolina State, he goes 9 innings and just the 1 earned run. Darden, Smith, and Canuck. Is that possibly the three best weekend starters in the nation? Yeah, I can't answer that because I don't watch. I don't get to watch enough of other teams to answer that. But um, you'll be hard pressed to find a better 1-2 punch than Smith and Canuck. Absolutely, Darden's he doesn't throw as hard as those other guys, so he kind of gets overlooked a little bit, and he's always going to pitch to contact. He's not going to have big strikeout numbers, and when your defense is playing as poorly as it did Saturday, it's going to hurt him every time because he's gonna pitch to contact. The guys are going to put the ball in play on him. Defense got to play behind him. You can't make 4 errors and give up a bunch of unearned runs and kick the ball all over the infield and throw it down the foul lines and that kind of stuff, man. You just can't have that sloppiness when he's on the mound. Who do you see entering the portal? Oh, I have no idea, man. No idea at all. Um, it, I would look at the places on the roster first where you got the most depth. Maybe a guy that's a little bit buried behind some experienced guys and could go somewhere else and get on the field faster. No, but that's always not the telltale either. With all the tampering going on, there's just no way to know. I'll be very surprised though if we get through these next 2 weeks and Clemson hasn't lost at least one guy. It's the nature of the business now. Again, especially with all the tampering going on. And no, I've not heard anything about Vic Burley joining a former teammate at USC. Fully expecting to lose someone on the defensive line and a wide receiver, but I wonder who. Yeah, if I was going to start somewhere, I might have started at defensive tackle because Clemson's got a lot of depth there. You got some of those young guys who are going to sit, or I shouldn't say sit, but not play nearly as much as they maybe could somewhere else because you got guys like Capehart and Trey Williams and Peyton Page in front of them who have been around and in this system for a long time and have a lot of experience. Guys, Burley's a guy that's, he's only going into his second year. He redshirted last year. Stephon Green, same thing. And I'm not saying either one of those guys. I'm just saying that those are the types of guys. But it wouldn't shock me if one of those defensive tackles hit the portal. Wouldn't shock me at all. You can only play it 2 at a time, and Clemson does like to rotate them in and out a good bit, so that gives 3 or 4 of them a good bit of snaps. But it's in today's landscape with as much money that's being thrown around at some of these guys, it's hard to keep them all happy. Hearing Bama trying to get Jacobs from Clemson, is this just? I assume you're talking about Braden Jacobs. Look, Jacobs is one of the better offensive linemen in this class. He's had some impressive showings at some camps. People are going to keep recruiting him, man. So again, talking about the nature of the business, even before NIL and tampering and all that stuff, even though there's no tampering here because he's not signed, he's just verbally committed. But this has always been the nature of the beast. Just because he's committed, people aren't going to stop recruiting him. So I I would venture a guess as to say there are more than one team, or there's more than one school out there um, trying to crack that door open and see if they can get a foot in and drive a wedge between him and Clemson. Because, I mean, again, you're talking about, a offensive line prospect that has an extremely high ceiling, and he's getting a lot of eyeballs on him at some of these camps he's doing. You're talking about a top 150 talent. I think the composites got him outside the 200, but outside the top 200. But there's at least one service got him inside the top 150, inside the top 125. But I don't even know that Alabama's even offered him. So I don't know if Alabama. I've not really heard anything about that. But I would never get comfortable with when you see a guy like Jacobs, and I'm not saying he's going to do this. I'm just using him as an example. He's out here having these really good, strong showings in these camps, these 7-on-7 camps, and he's taking home MVP honors. All that does is, improve his standing, and it puts more eyeballs on him, and it kind of I'm trying to think how to say this. Let's just say it puts more eyeballs on him. His name, most people already know who he is, but it just lends more credibility to what he's already got on film. And when you're doing it in some of these showcase camps, you're doing it against some of the better competition in the country. You're not just lining up against some guy on Friday night who is not even in your same league. So, I don't worry too much about Clemson or Jacobs' commitment to Clemson right now. I've not heard, just because somebody's after him, even if let's say Bama's trying to get in on him, even though they've not even offered him. Let's just say they are trying to get in on him. That don't mean he's got to have the interest in them too. And he's a guy that was high on Clemson even before Matt Luke got there. So I don't think that would be easy to pry him away. Yeah, listen to Kurt. Hit that bell. Subscribe to the channel. And if you like to place wagers and stuff, betonline.ag. Use the promo code ACCTV, 50% off.
If you are looking to place your bet for March Madness, the NBA, NHL, MLB, college football, or any other sporting events, go to BetOnline AG and enter the code ACTTV for a 50% welcome bonus up to $1,000. With the earliest lines, biggest bets and fastest payouts, BetOnline AG is the place to go. Don't forget to use the code ACTTV.
All right. Some of the things I seen early have reared head. Gonna get it right. Been more lucky than good in a lot of games. See, me and you ain't gonna see eye to eye on a lot of things tickled, and this is one of them. You don't start the season out by winning what was it, 32 of 30. Not, what were they, 28-3 or something like that? You don't go 28-3 and it's due to more luck than anything, man. I will go as far as saying you don't want to always have to play from behind, but the fact that this team has come from behind so often, to me, that's proof of how good they are. And it's got a lot less to do with luck than you make out. Again, I think losing Chufo and having to move Hinderleiter away from first base really messes with your chemistry out in the field. And it might take a minute to kind of start setting that back up. It took a couple of weeks to get it going early defensively. I do think they'll get there. Hinderleiter's played a lot of shortstop in his career. And again, I thought Purify was starting to play really well defensively at second. And Blake is who he is out there at 30s. I don't know that he's ever going to be an elite defender, but he's good. He's solid. Just from time to time, he's going to airmail one or he's going to bobble one. It's just kind of been who he is over there, but he more than makes up for it at the plate. And I thought, for North Carolina State's pitchers Friday night, the guy that started and the Van Dam kid that came in behind him, they have been solid all season, particularly Van Dam, and he was really good Friday night. Their starter Saturday, that was probably his best start of the season. I get it. He had a high ERA, and he's a guy that has struggled with command all year long. I think if you take his walks and hit by pitches combined, he was averaging 1 per inning. He walked one guy Saturday, man. His command was on point. And he kind of kept that lineup off balance. You also got a couple guys in that lineup struggling right now. Canarella had kind of started to cool off a little bit. Taylor's got a long on base streak going, 20-something games, but it's not like he's raking at the plate or anything. Mathis has kind of cooled off a little bit. Blake Wright had pretty much all but 2 of you hit Saturday, I think it was. But he's kind of the only one that's kind of kept it going. But again, man, it's baseball. It's a long season. It's full of ups and downs, and there ain't no way you'll get me to agree this team's been more lucky than good. Prayers for Spencer's recovery. Yeah, it sucks for Spencer Strider. He two Tommy John surgeries now, man. That's I don't even have words for that. It's just brutal. But the way he pitches, man, and his mechanics, and there is a lot of stress put on his elbow. Hopefully he can get back to what he was. I hope he can. Man, big kick in the teeth for the Braves, though. Big kick in the teeth for the Braves. What's recruiting been? Either linebacker. Yeah, Jaden Harmon committed to Alabama Sunday. Let's say over the weekend, man. All my days are starting to run together. This is a guy who looked like, he was trending Clemson's way first of the year. Came to the elite retreat. Heck, I think there might even been as far as a crystal ball or two put in for him. Don't hold me to that because I might be wrong, but it seems like there were put in for him to Clemson. Never came back after that, though. He took several spring visits, Alabama, Tennessee. I think he got to Ohio State. Never got back to Clemson, and turns out that was very telling. He had also said publicly he was planning to get back here for the big official visit weekend in June. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But this is one you could kind of starting to turn early in the spring when you don't hear no plans about him planning to get back to Clemson during the spring, and he's making all these other stops. Sometimes that's kind of telling. Clemson's other, they've probably zeroed in on Kamar Archie now, a 4-star guy he's from up in New Jersey. He was here for the junior day on March 9th and supposed to be here for the big official visit weekend. Barrett Carter's the only guy that you're scheduled to lose after this season. He's the only guy that's gonna he's the only senior, let's put it that way. Obviously you could lose guys to the portal, but Carter's the only guy that is scheduled to come off scholarship after the season. So Clemson's probably only going to take one, barring somebody else leaving unexpectedly. So it kind of does afford them the luxury of being patient and selective, and they don't have to be in a hurry. So that they'll go the distance with Kamar Archie and see what happens there. Does anybody know why Godfrey went into the portal? Because it is, when we're talking about college basketball, even more so than football, because it's crazier in college football than it is even in football. Nobody entering. When you see a guy, you should never be shocked by somebody entering the portal. Nobody. I put this on Facebook the other day. Godfrey was not high on my list of potential portal guys for Clemson after this season, but he was on the list. So I was not all that surprised. He kind of played the role of a sixth man this year. Daddy gets on Twitter talking about how he's leaving because Brownell told him he's coming off of the bench next year. I guarantee you Brownell don't know who's coming off the bench and who's not outside of Ian Shefflin next year as we sit here in mid-April. I guarantee you that. Clemson was going to have two post players coming back, basically, with any experience. Godfrey, Shefflin. You need more than that. There were plenty of minutes available to Randall Godfrey next year. So I ain't buying this narrative that Brownell told him he was coming off the bench next year. I don't think Brownell's telling anybody that when he don't even know what his roster is going to look like. And I know Godfrey's daddy tweeted that out. I think if I'm not mistaken, he might have deleted it. I don't know if he did for sure, but keep seeing screenshots of it everywhere, so he must have deleted it. I don't buy that for 1 second. It's right after the loss to Alabama in the Elite Eight, he's talking about next year for Clemson. Right after that, he's tweeting about the 110 Society on Twitter, the Clemson Collective, and then not even a week later, he's in the portal. I'm going to let you connect those dots. I'm telling you right now, it's got less to do with anything Brownell told him and more to do with other things. If you just think about who could benefit quickly from transfer at wide receiver, I would look at Hannafin before Noble. Noble could still see a lot of snaps if healthy. The if healthy is the key here. He was out all spring. I don't know where he's at. Still in a boot last time I saw him. So I would probably think that hurts his value a little bit. But he is a guy that might end up getting passed on the depth chart at Clemson this year with Wesco and TJ Moore coming in and, some other guys, Stellato kind of stepping up and staying healthy and showing what he can do. I still think Noble Johnson can be a really, I don't think he's going to be this elite level wide receiver, but I think he's a guy that can help you. And I think he's a guy that can be a solid complementary piece for you in your offense. Hannafin, I'd be surprised if Hannafin left after just one season. He don't strike me as that kind of guy. Wouldn't be shocked though, because none of this stuff shocks me anymore. But I'd be a little surprised. He doesn't strike me as that type of dude. Need you to figure out Brad's portal stays quiet. That is by design. He does not want. He doesn't want that out there. It's already hard enough. When it comes to having to make your pitch and what kind of offer you're making, when you start when you let other teams know what you're offering and know who you're after, it just makes it a little bit harder. So they try to do their work under the radar and as quietly as possible. And he's been really good at it, man. There's very little that gets out. Like you look at Hunter Tyson's brother. When he entered the portal, he puts out, or somebody puts out this list of schools that have been in contact with Tyson, right? And you're going through it, and Clemson's not on that list. I would bet anything Clemson had contact with Tyson's brother, but he wasn't on that list. I mean, it's just, yeah, you're right, man. Quiet might be putting it mildly. It does not get talked about. Davis Sanders with another trip to the Vols. Are they becoming a bigger threat than Georgia? I would probably put Tennessee, Georgia, and Clemson as the top three. That would probably be what I would have right now. I know Ohio State's getting played up a lot, but I really don't think he's going to end up that far away from home. I do. I know all the right things are getting said, about Clemson and this is one I'm still going to have to see to believe. Let's put it that way. I do not get the warm and fuzzies when I think about Davis Sanders and Clemson being a match. But I've said that a time or two in the past before and been wrong, but I don't get it here. I think there are going to be some factors in play that work against Clemson. And it might boil down to how much he's going to factor culture and education and those type of things versus money. Because Clemson's not going to, offer him what some of those other schools are going to offer him, just to come sign. And I just don't know if that's something they can overcome in this one. Current transfer portal rules or lack of them and new rules coming soon mean kids don't even need to worry about year two. They can take the best year one payout. That's exactly right. Heck, you can jump from one school to the next, to the next, to the next. It's basically a year-to-year free agency. You can jump in You can jump in after every season and try to command the best deal. And I'm all for the players getting played, man. I think the NCAA has screwed the players long enough. I'm all for NIL. I think players should be able to profit off of their own name, image, and likeness. I don't think anybody should be told they can't do that. It's your name. You own it. I'm not a big fan of the collectives and the pay-for-play stuff. Everybody knew when the NIL stuff came out that this is where we were headed. Hopefully, it just speeds us up to more of a professionalized game, and we get players' unions, and we see these schools finally have to start sharing some of that television revenue with these players because they are earning that money. And I just think it is absolutely dead wrong to ask the fans to pay for these salaries, and the schools don't pay jack squat up. They get to go spend it on softball or equestrian or lacrosse or whatever else. But you want the fans to pay these guys, salaries. You need contracts in place, again, players unions, and it'll slow some of this stuff down. And the way it is right now, schools with the biggest alumni bases and the richest, boosters are going to be throwing around the most money. And I know it's kind of always been that way behind the scenes, but it's magnified by 1,000 now, and it's out in the open and it's legal, and nobody's doing anything about the tampering. It's just the sport's kind of at a crossroads right now, and I hate the year to year free agency stuff. Again, I'm all for guys getting paid. I wish it would come from the revenue that they actually help generate, the television revenue, and it would be, more of a salary structure with a salary cap and stuff, kind of like we see. Heck, we see that in every professional sport except Major League Baseball, and they do it a different way with the luxury tax. But hopefully that's what we get to one day, and everybody kind of get on a level playing field. So who will be QB2, CV, or Pyramid? It's April 15th. I can't answer that. I do think Trent Pyramid made his case to at least for the competition to be opened up if it wasn't already. Again, none of us are at practice, so we don't really know what's going on. I think I said it last week. I know I wrote it. There wasn't anybody on that field last Saturday that was surprised with Trent Pyramid's performance. They've been seeing it since he was at Daniel. We're talking about a two-time player of the year in this state, two-time state champion. I don't think he ever lost as a starter in high school. The kid just wins. If he was a little bit bigger, if he had a little bit bigger of an arm, he's a 4-star quarterback coming out of high school. He just doesn't have the measurables, but he has the stuff that you can't measurable, the heart, determination, and all that rah-rah stuff. He's got it. He sees the field. He sees the field well. He processes things quickly. He gets the ball out on time and where it's supposed to go. And he doesn't make bad decisions. So yeah, it would not shock me at all if at some point, if Clemson needed another quarterback besides Klubnik, that it ended up being Pearman over Vizina. I've said for all along, Vizina was a guy that was going to need at least a year and maybe 2 because he was that raw coming out of high school. And maybe it turns out he does need another. He still needs another one. Now, having said all that, last Saturday was just one practice. And by all accounts, Vizina's been really good this spring. And I'm not basing that just based on what coaches say. That comes from some people that have been at some of the scrimmages that say he's looked really sharp a lot of the year. Not saying he's been perfect or anything, just saying he's looked a lot better than he did last Saturday. But yeah, I do think Pearman made his case to have his name thrown into the mix there, at least, in that backup role behind Klubnik. Because that guy, he's just a gamer, man. He's just a gamer. How much are Sanders' backers like coaches and parents in on Clemson? I know the parents like Clemson. I am convinced there are some other things that are going to end up factoring into this recruitment before it's all said and done. I know Sanders loves Clemson. I know he loves the culture and how Dabo Sweeney, just preaches education. But I fully believe there are going to be some other things that end up factoring in before it's all said and done. And what it's going to come down to, or what he's got to decide of those factors, what are the most important ones, right? I think his parents, like Clemson and everything, it stands for, the program stands for. But in this NIL landscape and stuff, sometimes that's not enough anymore. And I'm not convinced that it's going to be in this case, especially when you're trying to beat out schools like Georgia and Tennessee, or maybe even Ohio State. You know, I might be proven wrong. I'm telling you, I do not get the warm and fuzzies about this one. And you know, granted, there was a couple of weeks there in the last recruiting cycle. I liked Clemson's chances with Sammy Brown, and then there was, I don't know, a couple of weeks, a month stretch there where I didn't get the warm and fuzzies there either, and then it kind of switched back. So maybe that's all this is too. But as we sit here today, I don't know, man. I'm just having a hard time buying it. Only thing positive about baseball this week was the starting pitching. Darden deserved better Saturday night. Yes, he did, man. He deserves so much better. But again, I thought they started to come out of it in the seventh inning yesterday, and you started to kind of see the team we've been seeing all along. A team that they tend to just find a way, and played much cleaner defensively yesterday. So I know Backett said, I think it was Tuesday night that I can't remember if it was Tuesday. Yeah, it was Tuesday night that he wanted them to get eat some humble pie after the loss to USC Upstate. Then they go ahead and drop two more and end up losing 3 straight. So they got a big old fat dose of humble pie. And, but again, it's baseball, man. Peaks and valleys. I do think, again, I don't know if you heard me talking about it before, but I think losing Chufo hurts you chemistry, in the infield, particularly in the middle infield, because I think it took them a little bit to kind of build that up at the beginning of the season. Because it's easy, it's on the surface, it's easy to say, oh, just slide Hinderleiter over there. Well, you do that, it also costs you your most athletic first baseman who's been really productive over there. And then it also makes you have to move over top to first some. So it's just a lot of moving pieces, and I do think it had an effect. I'm not saying it's the reason why they played sloppy or lost 3 games in a row, but I think it had an effect. I also think, again, it's baseball, it's peaks and valleys, and you're going to go through it sometimes. No team, there's never been an undefeated team in college baseball. And, I doubt there ever will be. At the end of the day, this team's 29-6. Depending on what poll you look in, they're top 5 in the country. That's pretty damn good. I want to see someone other than Will and Overtop in the second hole both walk, but how about we hit when Cam on base? Yeah, I mean, Taylor's got like a 20-something base on streak, getting on base streak going on. It ain't, him and Cam have kind of been setting the table for the most part. Hell, Cam's been struggling a little bit too here recently. I mean, it ain't like he's killing it and getting left out there every third inning. To me, I kind of see it this way. I want to see the leadoff guy and the number 2 guy get on, and somebody drive them both in. That's kind of the way I view that thing. I like I told you earlier in the season, I'm not a big fan of moving Taylor down in the lineup. Guy's raised his batting average 100 points in the last month or so. Again, he's been on base 20-something games in a row. So he's kind of he's getting on base and he's helping set the table. Now you need guys like Obertop and Mathis to do what they're supposed to do and drive them in. And Blake Wright tends to hit third. Nah, I'll take that back. He's been hitting fifth, hasn't he? So you need Mathis and Obertop to do what they do and are supposed to do and drive them in. Let's see. Mathis has 4 hits in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. He had 2 on Sunday, and then he had 2 in the finale at Notre Dame. Obertop went hitless in 2 of the 3 games this weekend. Had 1 hit Friday night. That was his only hit of the weekend. Before that, he had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 game hitting streak going, and had hit safely in 13 of 15. Not very unproductive for a middle lineup guy. Want to see the guys stop trying to swing for the fences every at bat. That's what it seemed like they were doing this weekend, just from observation. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that either. This team tries to go the other way with the ball a lot more than teams in the past have. I do think they started to press a little bit Saturday, and they didn't make the pitcher work, and they were swinging at some pitches that they generally don't, but it's also not unusual to start pressing a little bit when you are struggling. But I don't think they're all up there swinging for the fences. I'm not saying nobody never does, but I don't think they're all up there doing it every swing or anything. Again, this team has shown it's plenty capable of just putting the ball in play, going the other way. I look at Hinderleiter's at bat yesterday. He goes up there to bunt, can't get it down. The first two pitches he can't hit, he can't get it. So he's 0-2. Then there's a ball. It's 1-2. They called a bunt off, and he just kind of pokes one out there in the center field. He wasn't trying to hit that ball out of the park. He's trying to put good contact on it. That's what they want him to do, is kind of barrel it up, so to speak. Not necessarily this coaching staff does not focus on, launch angles and those kind of things nearly the way the last coaching staff did. I kind of, for the most part, I've liked their approach at the plate this season, although I do think they started pressing a little bit Saturday. Speaking of Sanders, the same suspects were in on Trevor Lawrence back in his recruitment, and Dabo pulled it off. Don't count out Dabo to get the right guy for Clemson. Maybe not who everybody wants. Yeah, but let's to be fair, we're talking about a whole different set of circumstances here and a whole different landscape they're having to deal with now, as opposed to when Trevor came through. One thing I like to see more is more effort to steal bases. I know Backus doesn't want to force it, but I think being aggressive would help get some more runs across. I don't think he doesn't want to force it. They were extremely aggressive last year, so it was kind of widely assumed they'd come in this year with the same mindset and be just as aggressive on the base paths, because they probably got more speed this year than they had last year. it's just not turned out that way. And, listening to him talk, I get the impression he doesn't come right out and say it, but if you kind of read between the lines, and a couple of times he's addressed it and talked about it, he doesn't feel like they've had to be that aggressive on the base pass this year. And I kind of agree with that. They've hit the ball well. Now, if they continue to struggle, I think you might see him start to dial up some of that aggressiveness on the bases and maybe try to steal a few more than they have, because that is one thing that I thought they were going to do this year that they have absolutely not done. They got 35 stolen bases this year. That's it. 7 of them from Hinderleiter, 3 of them from Mathis, 5 of them from Chufo, who, again, I don't expect back this year, 6 of them from Taylor. Wouldn't expect to see Cam stealing any bases the rest of the year, but if they continue to struggle at the plate a little bit, though, it'll be interesting to see if he kind of tweaks that, philosophy and starts to dial up the aggressiveness a little bit more, because they're certainly capable of doing it. Absolutely. And I love that brand of baseball. I love seeing especially when you got the kind of speed that they've got. Take advantage of it. But I get the sense that, with some of the bats and the way they're able to put the ball in play, and you don't have the strikeout numbers that you've had in the past with this team. Maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to. That's kind of the sense I get. Pitching catching up to Cam. He needs to be more selective. I think if the pitching was going to catch up to Cam, it would have happened before now. It's hard to hit at a 380 clip all the time. I mean, he's still hitting 319. Again, I know he's struggled a little bit more here of late. He went hitless yesterday. He went hitless Saturday. Had a hit Friday. Had a hit Tuesday. Before this weekend, if you go back to Miami, in Game 2 he had a hit. Game 3 he had a hit. USC Upstate 2 hits. Notre Dame a hit. Notre Dame a hit. I mean, he had hits in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of his 8. 7 out of the past 8 games. Couple multi-hit games in there. I do think Cam started to look like he was starting to press a little bit there a couple of weeks ago, but I ain't too worried about that guy. Jacob Hinderleiter struggled at the plate after the errors. He seemed to let it affect him at the plate. North Carolina State had a lot of strikeouts on high fastball they couldn't lay off of. Yeah, that guy was throwing gas, man, Saturday especially. The guy that closed Friday night and the guy that came in and closed Saturday, he was throwing gas, and it was really affecting him. He was throwing 96, 97, if I'm not mistaken. They got performances from pitchers this weekend they had not been getting most of the year. That's been their problem. Pitchers, struggling with command and kind of not hitting their spots and getting hit around a little bit. And they didn't have that problem this weekend. Man, that Van Dam guy, the Van Dam guy that pitched Friday night, he came out of the bullpen and pitched Friday night. He's been good all year. Man, he was really good Friday night. And again, the guy that started Saturday, he had 24 walks and 7 hit by pitches. That's 31 free passes in 31 innings coming into Saturday. I think he walked one guy Saturday. I mean, it's like a whole different dude. So, again, I'm just of the opinion that in baseball you're going to have peaks and valleys. Yes, I think TJ Moore will play against Georgia. 100%. Absolutely. I think TJ Moore is going to play a lot this year. If you have not hit that subscribe button, please do so. We'd very much appreciate it. Hit the like button, share it around, hit that bell, all those good things. Again, if you like to, heck, maybe even wager on the WNBA draft tonight, who I just heard Caitlin Clark. I think I saw somebody say Caitlin Clark was drafted first. Overall, surprise, surprise. BetOnline.ag. Use that promo code ACCTV for 50% off. Save you a little bit of money. Appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. Man, it's been a long time since we went about a full hour talking nothing but baseball. That does not happen very often. I kind of like those nights. I kind of like them very, very much because baseball is kind of my thing, and I'd rather talk about it over football sometimes. But again, appreciate everybody tuned in. We'll be right back here doing it again next Monday. Don't miss it, 7 p.m.